Hi, and welcome back to my channel. This is take two because I got a phone call and hopefully I won't get another phone call. So I have to repeat everything I just said. Okay, I am giving you today's wrap up for the month of April, but I'm also going to incorporate what I've done for May so far since it's May 4th as of the making of this video. Usually I make it around the 30th of the previous month, but it took me a few days. I've kind of been in bed a lot, so here goes. For April, I read 58 books, so that is the most amount of books I read per month for 2021. For 2020, I came close because in 2020 I read 60 books last February. So 58 is a great number for me. The amount of pages I read in April was 19,426 pages. Now in March I read something like 22,000 pages, but that's because I read a tome and a couple of really long books in long series. My average pages per day is 648 pages, so that's a little less than 700 pages a day that I read. And my average pages per book is 334 pages per book. Now, what are my overall stats for 2021? As of the end of April, it was 193 books. Now, right now, I've read 5 books in May already, so my actual running total, I think I'm just going to give you this running total, is now 196 books. My running total of pages is 67,566 pages, and I don't really have that average because I did not incorporate the May books when I wrote this blog post, I wrote this as a blog post and now I'm making a video. And as I wrote it on the 30th of April. So I'm reading about 550 pages a day. And my book average is still about 338 pages a book. So those overall stats are a little bit different because of the time that I originally wrote the blog post to the time that I actually posted it on my blog and in making this video. Now, I will incorporate a screenshot for each week of April. Now, April week 1 was my best reading week ever. I don't know what bug hit me, but I'm really glad that I had that week because you'll see that it tapered off as the month went on. The first week of April, I actually read 25 books, which is a little more than 3 books a day. That was something, definitely I started with a bang, and I don't know what hit me, and I know that it's not going to happen again. That was just how the first week of April went. It was mostly a really good reading week, but there were 2 books that got 1 star, and it's very rare for me to give a book 1 star, and then to have 2 books in the same reading week. Those were Whirl Away by Robert Wintner and Hurricane Summers by Asher Bromfield. Now, Asher Bromfield's book, Hurricane Summers, was for a blog tour for early May. But I chose to opt out of the blog tour because of my view of the book. Now, I do want to tell you a little bit about this book and why I'm giving it 1 star. I'm giving it 1 star for mostly 2 reasons. The first reason is overuse of a phrase. There's a phrase called kissing her teeth, which means, like, in the South, or especially African American parents, I think you say it more than any other parents, is stop sucking your teeth. Don't suck your teeth at me. Well, this book used the term kissing her teeth 37 times, and the book was barely 300 pages. So that's like, I don't know, I can't even average that out. 37 times for that one phrase. I know that it was a debut novel, and maybe the author fell down on the job, but definitely the editor should have said something to the author to cut the use of that phrase. That was just something I could not deal with. The other reason was the subject matter was directed. It's Asher Bromfield. Sorry, I think I said it was debut. It's not a debut, but it's Asha Bromfield's audience is a YA audience, and this book dealt with some serious issues that, as a parent and a grandparent, I could not envelop some of the drama that was in that book. Racism, colorism, child abuse, sexual abuse, rape, child neglect, gaslighting, heavy subjects. It was like, for example, you had to check the box. I'm going to cover this. The book was like 300 pages. I'm sorry. That's how I felt about Hurricane Summers. It's really too bad because it's a BIPOC book, and as a black reviewer reviewing a black author, I would have loved to give accolades to that author. I will read her again to see if that's her nature, but that's how I felt about that. But on a more positive note, I read 4 Lisa Genova books in April. Inside the O'Briens, Every Note Played, Love Anthony, and Left Neglected. Now, previously, I think in January, I read Remember, which was a nonfiction book about memory, how we remember and why we forget, by Lisa Genova. And I wish I could remember her job. She's I want to say a neuroscientist. She's got some very lofty jobs. She's a very intelligent woman. But I also read Still Alice by her. I believe I read that in February. So each book that she writes deals with a different neurological disorder and how they affect the patient and their families, be it autism, Lou Gehrig's disease, Alzheimer's. Excellent books, and I highly recommend them. As a matter of fact, I may even make a separate video about those books. Another thing that made me really happy for reading that first week of April was Rick Riordan's second series, his Heroes of Olympus series. I read the first book maybe in January, but then I read the next 4 books. I believe it was 4 books of those in January, so those were really good. And then last year I read Inner Holidays by Christina Lauren, and that's a duo writing team. I really didn't like Inner Holidays, so I got The Soulmate Equation for review, and it's not out yet, but I got it for review, and I was really hopeful that it was going to be better than Inner Holidays, and I'm glad to say that it was. I was not disappointed. I loved The Soulmate Equation, and I highly recommend that. Now, last year I ran across Kristen Hanna for the first time, so I'm slowly working my way through her backlist. So in April, I was able to read Night Road. I don't have one of her books in my May TBR, but now that I'm thinking of it, I will put at least one book in there for May. I did read a few historical romances that first week of April, but the 2 that I really loved, I read 5 that week, but the 2 that I really loved were by Harper St. George. They were The Heiress Gets a Duke and The Devil and the Heiress. I loved those books because they were set in the Gilded Age, and what you have in Gilded Age historical romance books are strong female protagonists who don't live by the norm of society or convention at that time. So those books were very strong. I highly recommend both of them. Then, because I do a lot of different challenges each month, and in this particular case I think it was in the Reading Rivalry or Litwits, one of them I needed to read a poetry book, and so I chose Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. Oh my word, I love that book. I am not into poetry at all by no stretch of the imagination, but this book, Brown Girl Dreaming, gets 5 stars from me. It was part biographical, very soul-inspiring, and very uplifting. Then I moved down to week number 2. Now, less books, 11 books for that week. And that brought me to 36 for the month of April and 171 for 2021. All the books that week, except for one, were Kindle books. mostly all ebooks because I was working on blog tour titles that were coming up towards the end of April, and I wanted to get a bunch of them read. Two books that I read were not for blog tours. One was Karen Slaughter's book, False Witness, and Catherine Coulter's book, Vortex. They won't be out till June, maybe even August, but I had to read those two. First of all, I read Karen Slaughter's Grant County and Will Trent series last year, so I was eager to read her new book because it's a new character, and I think it might be a new series, I'm not sure, but it was very powerful, very upsetting in many regards because it reflects some of the sick crimes that go on in history now, and I think it was more related to white slavery. Very, very, very tough read, but very, very good book. Then I read Catherine Coulter's book, Vortex, as I just mentioned, which was her 27th book in her FBI series with Dylan Savage and Lacey Sherlock. I love this series. I started reading it from the first book maybe 6-7 years ago. I was in a reading drought for years, but there were 3 authors that I read during my reading drought. That was Catherine Coulter, James Patterson, and Laurie Foster. So I never fell behind in Catherine Coulter's FBI series, and even in her Brit in the FBI series that she co-authors with J.T. Ellison. So Vortex, like I said, will be out later this year, I think in August. It was really good. They're still going strong. They were working on different cases, so we really didn't see Sherlock and Dylan together, I think, until the last chapter, but they contacted each other throughout the book, so it was really, really a good book. Then I had In Ignorance of Means as an audiobook because NetGalley now does audiobooks for review. So I chose In Ignorance of Means, and this was a historical fiction that showed the plight of a young woman that was married to a horrible man in the 1800s. All this man wanted was a child to continue his legacy. He treated her horribly, and her goal was to escape him. And so the book showed all the dangers that she faced to get away from this marriage. It was basically a 3-star read. Then I read a bunch of Bookature books, and the ones that I'll mention here was The Emotional Her Last Chance by Alison Ragsdale. Then I read His First Wife's Secret by Emma Robinson. Really, really touching read that made me grab tissues. Then I read Tilly Tennant's Little Orchard on the Lane, which I see I need to make an edit on my blog post on that one. Little Orchard on the Lane. I'm just going to this blog post to see if I can make this edit. See, I'm glad that I'm working from my notes because it allows me to make an edit while I am talking to you guys. So I'm making the edit right now. Let me do that. Just a quick edit. Okay, so that edit is made. So then I read, as I mentioned, Tilly Tennant's Little Orchard on the Lane. It was a really sweet book. I love every book that she writes. I haven't read a book by Tilly Tennant yet that I haven't enjoyed. Then I read 2 J.P. Adler books. I think these might be the first books I read by J.P. Adler. They were Dead Women Crossing and Last Day Alive. This series is the Detective Kimberly King series. I only had the second one for review, but because I wasn't familiar with the author, I got the first one, Dead Woman Crossing. I'm glad I did because there was so much history that was included that was in Dead Woman Crossing that I did not see at all in Last Day Alive. And this is why I love continuity, because I'm nosy. I need to know all the things. And even though Last Day Alive could do very, very well as a standalone novel, I'm really glad that I read the first book because I think there's part of the story could have been lost by not reading the first book in the series. My last 2 books that I think I read in that first week, one was a Harlequin intrigue book, Her Child to Protect by Dolores Fawson. Now, I read 3 or 4 books from her last year in a series. Well, this one starts a new series, so now I'm eager for the next one. And then I read a book that is by Kim Nash, Moonlight over Muddleferd Cove. Now, she's an independent author, and I don't read a lot of independent author books, but anytime Kim Nash has a book, I want to grab it. I want to read it. It was a lovely story. I loved it. It had a little bit of conflict. It ended with a nice happily ever after. I gave it 4 stars, and I even contacted Ms. Nash, and I told her that I loved the book, but the conflict was kind of low. But she mentioned that it's a romantic comedy, so the conflict isn't going to be heavy. And I have to keep that in mind for the next romantic comedy book that I read, not just by her, but any other author. But that was a little bit of information that I gleaned that I can keep in mind for future reads. Then the 3rd week of April, I read 13 books, and that brought me to 49 books. And at that point, I was reading about 700 pages a day. And even though I read this much, I still talk on the phone to my friends hours a day. Hours a day. Katrina, 2 or 3 hours a day. Fashawn, 2 or 3 hours a day. A new friend, Lisa, an hour or so a day. Then I play Animal Crossing. Then I talk to Ariana, my daughter, and my grandchildren, Demetrius and Olivia. I don't talk to my oldest daughter, Adriana, as much as I like, or my youngest daughter, Alexis, as much as I like. I also cook almost every day. I blog at least 5 times a week. I diamond paint every single day. I'm going to show you some maybe at the end of this video. I finished a jigsaw puzzle last month, and I kind of separated the pieces for my next jigsaw puzzle, but honestly I haven't touched it in 3 weeks, but I got to get to that. Also, I resumed Animal Crossing during that 3rd week of April. I hadn't played in 7 months, and I had a 5-star island, but now I am flattening my island. So far, I have created an orchard, and I'm working on a garden. And so that's all kinds of stuff I do, and I'm still reading 700 pages a day. So I just wanted to tell you about that. In that book, I did read 2 print books for that 3rd week, and I wanted to get them. Let me grab them. The 2 print books that I read during the, I want to make sure I'm in the right week. During that 3rd week was The Plot, and this is Jean Hanff Korelitz. Now, this book I think comes out sometime in June or July. But anyway, this book was really good. There's this the book is about a struggling author who had a couple of very successful books, and now he's on deadline, and he just cannot. He's in a writing slump, I guess that's the right word, and he just can't think of a book. Well, he does teach writing seminars, and one of the people in the seminar tells him about an idea for a book, and then the guy dies. So the author, he steals the plot, but somebody knows that he stole the plot. So the whole book is about somebody that is stalking him to try to get him, because his book is so successful in the plot that he stole that even Steven Spielberg has offered him a movie deal. That's how successful the book is. TV appearances, book signings, movie deal, but somebody knows that he stole the plot. So that's that book. Another book I read was The Photographer, and this was by Mary Dixie Carter. Actually, when I got this book, I received a gift, which was this. I forgot what they're called, but if you look in here, you see all kinds of scenes from the book. I love that gift. This book, The Photographer, I should know, but I think this comes out May 25th, so this will be out in a few weeks. I loved this book. Let me tell you what I love about this book. If you ever read You by Carolyn Kepnes, which I think came out like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, the protagonist in that book was named Joe, and he was a stalker. Well, your stalker in this book, to me, was a female Joe. She's a photographer who stalks her clients, one family in particular. Excellent, excellent, excellent 5-star book. No, I have not yet written a review for either of these books, but I'll get them written. Let's see, I did 2 audiobooks this month, and I mean that week, and 9 ebooks. So of the 13 books, it was those 2 print books and then the other ones. The audiobook that I read was The Drowning Kind. It was really good. It was equally tragic. It was very, very eerie. A little bit spooky, very gothic. Then I read The Summer of No Attachments by Laurie Foster, an easy 5-star read. She's probably my favorite author. And then I read The Liar's Daughter by Rona Halsall and My Little Girl by Shalini Boland, both excellent psychological thrillers by 2 authors whose books never miss a beat. As a matter of fact, when I see offerings for blog tours for these 2 authors, it's an instant yes. I don't have to read the blurb. I don't have to know anything about the book. I don't have to see the cover. I see their names. It's an instant yes. Then I had Courting Trouble by Kerrigan Byrne. This was the second book in her Good Girls series. Now, I had planned to binge read books 1 to 3 because I had book 4, which was Tempting Fate, for review. I see more mistakes in my blog post in this. But anyway, so because I read so many series, I'm just correcting my little mistakes. I am a series fanatic. So when I get certain books, if I find that I'm reading something out of order, or I'm going to get a book that's out of order, I will go ahead and I will always read the previous books. It's just the way that I've done it. Oops. I see one more. Bear with me. I think I'm still filming, but this is saving me time because these books have already, this blog post is already up. So now if somebody looks at this post, those corrections are made. Now, I have to read series. So when I got Courting Trouble, I had planned to read, as I mentioned, books 1 to 3. So when I started the first book, which was Seducing a Stranger, I don't think I got 2 sentences in. 2 sentences, and I knew I had read this book already. So I went back to Goodreads and I found out that it was previously titled A Dark and Stormy Night. I knew I read it, but it has a new name because it started a new series, the Good Girls series. So that was book 1, already read it. So then I read the next one, which was Courting Trouble, and then the third one, which was Tempting Fate. Loved those, even though I recognize the first one. That just goes to show that I have an eidetic memory, because guess when I read A Dark and Stormy Night? I read it June of 2020. Now, I started Courting Trouble the 3rd week of April, so we're talking 10 months, 5, 6, 7, 800 books later, and I knew I had read that book. Anyway, I finished off the week with Someone to Cherish by Mary Balogh. It's the weakest of the books for that week, and it's also the weakest of the books for that series. I love the series, and it's the 7th or 8th book, but this one was Harry's story. Wasn't the best, but it was a good book. Then I move into week 4. Week 4, I read 9 books. Yeah, 9 books. I thought I said 11. I thought I wrote down 11. Now, this goes to show that my health reflects my reading. Because remember, I read 25 books the first week, 11, 13, now I'm down to 9. I spent most of the last week of April in bed. And part of it is my second coronavirus shot. I swear my fatigue has doubled, if not quadrupled. So I dropped down to 9 books, but they were good reads. They were really, really good reads. I mentioned about the Kerrigan Byrne books. I had read Courting Trouble at the end of week 3, and then I read the next 2, which were Flirting with Danger and Tempting Fate, at the beginning of the 4th week of April. And then I moved on and read 2 books by Effie Kemenow. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Love is What You Bake of It and Love by Design. Now, I had Love by Design for review, but again, if you know me by now, if you follow me on my blog or on this channel, I am a series fanatic. So I requested book 1. Both of these are reviewed on my blog, and they were both really good. She's a new author to me. They were both pretty much light romances. Lots of recipes, though. Lots of recipes because the main character works in a bakery. Then I read books 4 through 6 of Donna Grant's Heart of Texas series. They were A Cowboy Like You, Looking for a Cowboy, and A Cowboy Kind of Love. All really good books. Romantic suspense, which was kind of surprising to me because a lot of times cowboy books, I thought I had a couple in here, but I don't. Cowboy books are usually light contemporary romances, but these were all romantic suspense. They were really good books, pretty good reads, easy reads. I really enjoyed them. Then I read the 3rd book in the First Comes Love series, which was How to Train Your Earl. It was really good. I love that this was by Amelia Gray, if I'm not mistaken. I really, really loved this book. I'm glad that I read it. I think I gave it 4 or 5. Let's see. I gave it 5 stars. I just had to look down really quickly. Then I finished off with a cozy mystery series, a cozy mystery book by Emma Jameson. My last book of April. This was A Death at Seascape House. It's the first book in her Jemima Jago series. Now, she's called Jem in the books. I can't wait. She's called Jem in the book. I can't wait to read more. I love cozy mysteries. It's my go-to. My go-to really for relaxing reads are cozy mysteries and Amish fiction. And so A Death at Seascape House was a great read. So if you look at my blog post, which I will link in the description below, I have rated and linked every single book to Goodreads if you're interested in what I actually rated. And then also in my blog post, and I think I might try to put up a screenshot, not sure if I will, but I did already develop a TBR for May. And not only that, I've jumped into May because I've read 5 books already for this month. I usually read about 2 books a day, but the first book I read on the first day, The Cotillion Brigade, was 803 pages, so quite naturally I only read 1 book that day. And then I read The Berlin Zookeeper, Confessions at the Quilting Circle, I can't read this, Hidden Secrets at the Little Village Church, and The Newcomer, and I'm currently reading A Body at the Tea Rooms. So that just tells you where I am in May so far. At the end of the day, I also want to tell you that I love diamond painting. I think I may have mentioned that already. So I have 3 projects going on. So Many Books, So Little Time, Old Sea Castle, both huge diamond paintings, and then a smaller one that I could have finished yesterday, but I was in bed most of the day, and that is a cat playing, is it a cat? Yeah, a cat playing in ribbons. I'm working on that. I collected a bunch of jigsaw puzzles by Cobble Hill, and they are the Cobble Hill Rainbow in Elements series. I think it was 13 or 14 puzzles. Quite an expensive endeavor, but I have them all. I completed one, which is blue, and I have sorted red. And that's it. That's my May. That's my April. 58 books, 5 books read in May so far. Completed a jigsaw puzzle. I think I completed 2 diamond paintings, and I hung 3. 1 in my living room, 2 in my bathroom. My bathroom has a cat theme going on, so I have 2 cat puzzles in there, diamond paintings in there. This cat playing in ribbons, which is to my left, that's actually going in a hallway wall near my kitchen, near my other bathroom. And I do have another cat diamond painting that I'm going to start that's going to go in this bathroom, and that's called Polani by Micah Jelena, I believe. And I guess that's about it. I can't think of anything else to tell you. So thank you for your time. Bye-bye.